Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Infinite Danger Room. I'm Matt Price. We are here to talk today about Teen Titans Judas Contract, based on the hugely successful comic book series from long ago, or quite a while ago. There's now a DVD Blu-ray release and a VOD release. To discuss it today, we have got Matt Howlett, Anthony Brown, Chris Borthick, and Rachel Price here to discuss the new movie that's coming out in kind of the DC... I don't know what the universe they call it, but it's sort of the animated movie universe where, because they follow a continuity, a lot of them aren't just one-offs. And this does follow that continuity, which does allow for some changes from the original comics. But in general, I'll throw it first to you, Chris. Just kind of give us a little bit of a recap of, like, what is this movie and then what is it based on, and then we'll kind of throw around for everybody to do thoughts.
Well, this movie centers around the Titans team when they're kind of at their heyday, and in the comics, this was the classic team with Nightwing, Wonder Girl, Cyborg, Beast Boy, who was then Changeling, I think, Raven, and Starfire, and they had Tara on the team, and they had her on the team for quite a while. And then, before
we say too much, where are we going to put spoilers in this? Because obviously, if you're talking about the comics, there are some comics and spoilers. So we're going to talk about spoilers going forward. So I guess let's go ahead and give a spoiler warning now. Chris is going to discuss the original comics, which will have some spoilers both for those original comics and because they're based on those original comics on the show from going forward. So we're going to go ahead and say there's going to be a spoiler warning now, and then if you don't want to know what's happened, we'll discuss the rest of this after you hopefully watched the program and or read the comics. So this is now your spoiler warning. I'm going to throw it back to Chris to go ahead and do some more recap.
All right. Okay. So she, in the comics, she shockingly turns and betrays the group, and if I remember right, it is Deathstroke that's part of all that.
Yeah.
So, and she betrays them, and they are kind of, I don't know, racked and ripped apart for a while. They do come out of it. It is a little different though. The Brother Blood thing from the DVD did not happen, as I recall, in the original contract. Am I right, Matt?
I purposely didn't reread Judas Contract just so I wouldn't be comparing it too closely, but I feel like Brother Blood was not exactly in that storyline at that point.
I don't think so.
He showed up in stories involving Tara, but he was not. He was not a central driver of the Judas Contract storyline.
So it was a fantastic story though. It does end pretty tragically, as I recall, and a lot of betrayal, a lot of angst to reshape the Titans.
Okay, so that's kind of our... So tell us about who is the team in the film and some of the changes they made there based on what's going on in the DC animated movies, if that's...
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I mean, in the film, and you guys help me out because it's been a couple weeks since I watched it, but it is Nightwing, Starfire, Damian, Beast Boy, Raven,
Blue
Beetle, and is Guardian in this? Is that right? No.
Bumblebee is at the beginning, before the flash forward.
Right. So that's the team you're working with, and updated to go with that whole stretch of the Son of Batman and all of that, those DVD Blu-rays that they've come out with, because this ties a lot into the demon storyline that Damian and Deathstroke have been crossing swords quite literally with, and so that vendetta comes back in this particular movie. It's a good team. I'm a fan of the original, but there was no way they could do it and stay in the expanded universe. So,
yeah, I think the differences that they made to streamline this into that universe, I ended up being okay with.
Yeah.
Okay, Anthony, you want to share maybe some of your thoughts about either changes, characters that worked, things that worked for you about it in general?
So for me, I appreciate what DC is trying to do with these movies. I think their first launch into this with remaking the classics, like the Justice League or the Justice League of Two Worlds or whatever it was, even the Supergirl story. I feel like they did better with those than they've done with these newer ones where they try to adapt the New 52 stories and those group of characters into classic characters and classic stories. I understand what the purpose is, so a lot of people with the Batman movies kind of felt or didn't like some of the Batman movies because they weren't true to certain characters, right? Like with the Joker, he wasn't necessarily the goofy Joker that everyone loved and everything else. And what Snyder said was, my goal isn't to tell the same story that's already been written, it's to tell a different interpretation. So I can see what they're doing with it, but for me, I think it would have worked better as a story if they stayed with the original group with the flashback. Like, I enjoyed that 3-minute group and that interplay with Bumblebee and Roy and Changeling / Beast Boy and Robin and Starfire.
Yeah. Kid Flash is in that part.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, if you hook them in and you want to do it with them, sign me up for that movie, that series, with them the entire way. The characterization of Tara, like, just being, like, antisocial, anti-everything, it just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Because in the comic, like, she was a little bit more inclusive. You know, she did try to join in, and this one she just was standoffish the entire way. And that just didn't work. But again, I'm comparing that to the original, but also I'm kind of comparing it to the Teen Titans Go cartoon when they did the same story, and the betrayal felt deeper in that as well when she turned. And in this one, it's just like, she doesn't like any of you guys anyway. She has a bad attitude the whole time, so her stabbing you in the back is just kind of like, you know, like, even if you didn't know what this movie was going to be about, like, you'd be like, yeah, I can see that. So,
okay, so maybe not as much shock value to her.
Yeah,
exactly.
They probably should have done what the books did if they could have pulled a Teen Titans story between these two and had her just be like kind of antisocial, but then come to like all of them in that movie, and then move to this one where she betrays them. It would have been.
She should have been in the Justice League versus Teen Titans.
She should have
movie. That should have, because otherwise this character, as soon as the movie started, and I said, "Who's this character?"
Right.
Oh, her name's Tara. She happens to control the Earth. Okay, it seemed a little contrived. And then so when she does betray the team, because I have never read the story, so I had no idea what the story was about, what was going to happen. So when it seemed like it was, I called it a mile away as far as her betraying the team.
Right.
But I'm used to the old Teen Titans, and I think Anthony has said this on a prior podcast. I was kind of hoping Cyborg would have made an appearance. I don't know if in this continuity if he has ever been a part of the team or not, but
Who's in the team in Justice League versus Teen Titans? Didn't you guys watch that?
So Cyborg kind of goes both ways, and at the end of it, he's kind of their mentor.
Yeah.
Okay.
But in the Justice League versus Teen Titans, it's Beast Boy, Starfire, Damian, and Raven.
Blue Beetle's in there too.
Blue Beetle and Raven.
So it's kind of the team at the beginning, not the flashback team, but kind of the team.
Exactly. It's the same team, and then they just threw...
Except plus Tara.
Yeah, plus Tara.
So yeah, it almost seems like they should have had her in the last. Why not have her in the last movie?
Exactly. So you throw her in there, and then there's a little bit more to work with. And it's not to be down on it. Like, it had some high spots and some high points. And it tied back into the Son of Batman storyline where Deathstroke came back, and then he was also in the in the Teen Titans versus Justice League movie as well. He fought them in hell, and somehow he came back to life and did all that. So it does connect all the movies back to each other. Yeah. But I don't know that they're a great group of movies to be connected to. So.
All right. Rachel, why don't you give us some of your overall thoughts on how you kind of came to this relatively clean slate, having not read the original comics, and you haven't seen a whole bunch of these DC movies. How did it work for you?
I thought the movie was interesting. I really liked it. But again, I agree with the whole, it's easy to see that Tara backstabbed them. I mean, from her first line, we can tell that she really has sort of a contempt for the Teen Titans. And so, really that contempt, is very visible, not just to an audience, but also to team members. So that kind of was obvious. And I felt like at the end when... Deathstroke betrayed her. I felt like that needed to happen for her not to be stuck in this cycle of contempt against the Teen Titans.
Okay. All right. Matt, what do you got?
Oh, I thought I had my turn. Okay,
Did you already have your turn?
I got to think of something to talk about. Oh, no, I'm just kidding. I like the flashback. I agree with Anthony. I actually want to see more of that team. And
Yeah,
that
I
team.
would. If they said there's a series of that whole team, I'd be down with that.
Oh, yeah. In fact, I wonder if there are some solid stories that they could
Oh, I'm sure. There's
do
tons.
something from there. You know, maybe do a throwback where a 2-in-1 episode or something like that would be kind of cool. But I had briefly mentioned this earlier, but how old is Beast Boy compared to the rest of the team? And like I mentioned earlier before we did the podcast,
Right. See, to me, he comes off more immature. I know we're thinking timeline-wise, but if he's on that original team, how old is he? And then
maybe
5
he's
years
like
later, how old is
13, and the rest of the Titans are like 18, 19.
Right, and then they're in
so
their
5
early
years
20s,
later-
and he's 16, 17 or
Yeah,
something.
because like Corey and Dick are talking about getting an apartment together, and
Right.
so you assume they're adults by this point. But Beast Boy is still living in the Titans Tower, so I'm assuming he's still pretty young, and especially with him really trying to make moves on Terra, it seemed like if he was older, it'd be grossly inappropriate. But
Right.
in this, it seemed like, well, maybe they are about the same age, and you could say maybe she's like 17 or 18 this, but it just seemed I don't know, I was kind of curious about that bugged me a little bit in the show.
Yeah.
I kind of wish that they would have established some ages, just that would have been like a small throwaway that could have established these characters' ages. And
Or if they would
Where
have
they
said
are in
how
the
many
timeline.
years later.
That would've
Did
helped.
it say how
Because
many years later? It just said years later? Or?
It didn't say how many years later or years later at all. It just kind of cut to the it cut to the present or to
However
the
much
future.
longer it was. Okay.
Exactly, because Dick was still Robin, and so he was younger and he was smaller. And then you fast forward and now he's Nightwing,
And he's
bigger,
obviously grown.
stronger,
Yeah.
and so it's just like how much time did transpire between that, because Beast Boy was in both parts, and he was still talking about social media and getting likes and everything else, and he's still doing the same stuff, talking about social media and everything else. So,
Yeah, and he did say like something like Twitter was brand new or something like that in the first
his
bit.
profile was brand new, and
Okay,
now,
right.
so I mean that's kind of the thing is, where did he go? Or what, did something happen to him? Does he not age? Like, I think that linking the two could have been fleshed out a little bit more, but the purpose of it wasn't for Beast Boy, it was for Corey, and
Yeah.
it was for Dick,
Right.
to show kind of their connection and like to fast track that, or I mean to advance that.
And in the original
conversation.
Titans comics, he was always kind of the immature one because he had been on Doom Patrol like when he was actually a boy, literally a Beast Boy. And then he was, I guess, always thought to be a younger teenager in most of those original
Exactly.
Perez Titans because he was always a little more mature.
Yeah, I always assumed in the Perez stuff he was maybe getting into his late teens, early 20s by the time
By the end of it?
By the time, but maybe by the time the original contract was started, that he was getting into young adulthood.
Really? I guess I always saw him as a little younger, but maybe that's
Yeah.
just because he just was always kind of making the immature jokes and things like that.
Yeah, well, there are people like that do that in their 20s.
To their much older age.
Yeah,
I will say I have not watched a bunch of these. I watched Justice League Dark with you guys, and I haven't watched a bunch of them. But I enjoyed it. I mean, I wasn't expecting it to be Wolfman and Perez. I was thinking, okay, they can't really do that, so it's going to be its own thing. But there was the fights were cool. The fights were well choreographed. I mean, a lot of times, even in live action stuff, it's like, well, there's a fight going on. I don't know what, and it just starts looking like a bunch of garbage. We've talked about these third act fights, not really. And even with the third act fight, I felt like they kept the storytelling pretty clean. But especially with like the Deathstroke Nightwing fight and that opening fight against Hive, I felt like the storytelling was pretty solid, and it was really good action, which sometimes you don't get.
Right.
I also like the cathartic bit at the end of the fight when Terra just destroys the entire building and it falls on her. I thought maybe that could have an insight metaphorically as to just her breaking down completely, and so at the end of the movie, how the building breaks down on her like she's been doing internally.
Like everything falls in on her, in both literally and metaphorically.
Yeah, I have to say, I also like the movies, and I mean, I had to kind of step back and be like, well, this is for this universe, so. But I enjoyed. There were several things. Of course, I enjoyed the opening sequence too. I also enjoyed a lot of the interplay that they had in there between Starfire and Nightwing, about the what are we going to tell them? No.
Right. Well, that's kind of
yeah.
stuff that they kind of played with in the
Yeah.
books. That she was kind of an
So,
alien, and then
yeah.
longer she was here, she was almost kind of, she'd yank his chain on that kind of
Yep.
stuff.
It was beautiful.
Yeah.
And so that was fun. And of course, I enjoy the fact that Nightwing got to be pretty badass for the movie. And Brother Blood, who is a creepy character in the original Perez. I think
In
he comes
everything.
Off, well, in everything.
Everything.
I mean, they've rebooted him a little bit at times, and this reboot was actually pretty cool. I mean, it was creepy when he's pretty much drinking the reporter that insulted him.
That was really dark.
Yeah, I was like, oh, we went there. Okay.
For even for a PG-13 movie, I'm like, that's pretty dark.
Yeah. Ugh.
I didn't realize the rating of this show, and so I watched it last night with my
Uh-oh.
6-year-old daughter, and she was asking me what's going on this, and I was like, I don't know. He's got like red paint all over him or something. Like that. He's a weirdo. He's a weird guy. Don't look at that.
Fruit punch. It's the Kool-Aid Man. He's gonna come here soon.
I said paint, or I think I might have even said juice. I can't remember, but it was,
Juice.
I was like, I don't know. He's
Human
just
juice.
drinking something.
Juice.
He's
Yes.
bad. He's a bad guy.
Yeah, we obviously watched it with Audrey, and Audrey's like, well, this got dark.
Nice.
He's I appreciate them rebooting the character because again, for the audience that they're trying to attack, whenever you throw Teen Titans on the show, it's going to attract a younger audience because of the success of the original Teen Titans cartoon and the infinite success of Teen Titans Go. You throw a Teen Titans movie out there. I remember with the Son of Batman movie, we were at Target one day and a lady was thinking about buying that for her kid, and I was just like, yeah, you want to steer away from this one. So, because her kid was like 6 or 7, I was just like, yeah, this isn't the movie for a 6 or 7-year-old. So I see what direction they tried to go. I know that this was supposed to play off of the New 52 universe because that's the Justice League that they established. However, this group of Teen Titans isn't the one from the New 52 universe. The New 52 universe had Bunker and some other new created characters like Skitter, and obviously Kid Flash was in there, except he was Bart, and so there were a lot of character changes from the New 52 to this iteration. This iteration is actually, I guess, the Rebirth Titans.
More or less but it is more or less the Rebirth team, I think. Although I think they were also being aware of what the original characters were too, to some degree.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess even if they would have tried to do this with the New 52 characters, I may have enjoyed that a little bit more because you grab bits and pieces of the old, and then you threw them in with the new. But like Damian doesn't work to me in the story.
Really?
he's
I like Damian. I liked him in this.
Well, again, my frame of reference is the cartoon and the original, and so I'm just like, you could have replaced him with Cyborg. You could have replaced him with Kid Flash, and then I think it would have worked a little bit more, and there could have been more humor because Damian's whole thing is he's super serious and he's super dark, and then also again the most stunning part of the original and the cartoon interpretation, or the first cartoon interpretation, was the betrayal.
Yeah.
And so if you throw Wally in there, it's, like they're laughing, they're joking, like, they're cutting up and they're being the Teen Titans, like, whereas with this, when you throw Damian in there, it's like, he's watching his back and he's looking out for her and something doesn't smell right. And, he's hopping through rooftops and, and there's Deathstroke. So,
Yeah, I kind of agree with that, but I also think that the reason to have him in there is the Deathstroke thing from the animated cartoons.
And I thought that was a good
the
scene.
The vendetta between them and the
Right.
and the hostility sort of connects Deathstroke a little better to this group of Titans because, in the original, he doesn't really like the Titans because his son takes a crazy super serum to try to take them out for Hive and dies in the process. So
Right, and that's obviously not set up here.
that's not
Right.
no way to do that without a lot of backstory. So I liked the connection part. I agree Damian's pretty dark, but I also don't think at a certain point it would have mattered if you'd added a couple people to go with Damian. I mean, like why not have Cyborg? Why not have Kid Flash and Damian,
In the perfect time to introduce the old school characters, because they introduced them at the very beginning, so it was almost like they were foreshadowing
Right.
when
could've.
Dick Grayson, spoiler,
Oh,
okay,
always spoiler.
when Dick Grayson is shot by Deathstroke on the dock and he falls in the water, and he swims back up, pulls his vest open or whatever, and he realizes that he had a bulletproof vest on. That could have been the time for him to say, "Looks like it's time to get the whole team back together."
That would have been awesome.
And then you could have had them come and do this big rescue scene, and that maybe it was a budget constraint, or maybe surely the writers.
That's a lot of
Thought
voice
about it.
talent. I mean, that is a lot of voice talent that you got to pay, because a lot of it's not like 80s cartoons where like one guy voiced like 7 different characters. Like, because if you watch the credits of like Transformers, it's like this guy
Frank
voiced-
Welker's doing Megatron and 30 other guys.
exactly. So
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you kind of knew Nightwing was going to come in and be awesome at the end. Most of those things didn't bother me too much, although, I mean, just from a fan perspective, would I like to see more Kid Flash? Sure. But from a story perspective, most of those things didn't bother me too much. I think they were trying to keep it to, not that you couldn't adjust the number of people he needed for his machine or whatever, but they needed to have one too few so that he could have to give up Terra by not capturing Nightwing. He didn't want to have like a ton of extra superheroes kind of laying around, so to speak.
That was my only thing, I think, in the movie, speaking of the machine, and sorry to
Yeah.
interrupt. So he put Damian, and he was going to put Nightwing in the superpower draining machine, and I was like, there's something wrong with this picture, because they don't.
Exactly.
Well,
they
he
don't
was
have
just
any
draining
powers.
people's life force in the other one. I think you just get whatever, because like in
that's
that little
Blood and Blood's thing. Like, he drains your life
Right.
force, not your powers.
Yes.
So
I just understood it more like he was taking powered people, and I was like, why do you
Exactly.
need these two? Because they don't have any. So
I think the idea, and I don't know exactly, my read on it was, hey, I've seen I can take regular people's power and be like stronger than regular person. So if I take super people, I'll
Well,
be
sure.
even better.
sure, I just still with those
But
two though. they're not-
Nightwing, I see what you're saying. Nightwing and Damian have
they're repetitive.
Skills.
the
They're
same
super-
skill
and they're
set.
same
I mean,
skill sets,
maybe
yeah.
Damian's a slightly better fighter, arguably. He's just younger than Nightwing, so Nightwing has the advantage over him. But
You're saying if you had a Kid Flasher there or something,
That would make
that
more
makes
sense.
more sense.
Makes more
Yeah.
sense, yeah.
Blue Beetle, I guess you could replace Cyborg with Blue Beetle just because they have the weird tech power.
Right.
Well, I mean, and that was the purpose of him, was to replace Cyborg, since he's in the Justice League officially. But again, just bring it, like, throw Roy in there, right? Like,
Right.
because I just feel like you can't have enough Roy, you can't have enough Wally in these things, because for me, again, it's all about your frame of reference. If you go into this in the dark, and you don't know, then it works, right? Like, but if you have some frame of reference to either the original or the cartoon, you're just like, the cartoon hit all the notes, right? Because if you watch it, like Beast Boy and Terra, they're actually on a date. Like, he broke her down, they go on a date, and then like the betrayal happens, and then he's just like, wow, he's fighting Slade in a fun house and just all that stuff. And even in the cartoon, there are episodes in between, and it's just like, yeah, you can see them coping with that. And so with this, she just it doesn't have the family ties that the Teen Titans have, because I guess with the Perez run and even with these newer runs, they always feel really close-knit and like a family, and that's what made the betrayal feel even worse. Is every person they brought into the team felt like they were a part of the team, and it just worked. Even when people came and went, they were always tight. And so with this, when she with this, it was just like, she just has a bad
It seemed
attitude.
more,
It just seemed more
less subtle.
Yeah, like, she has a bad attitude. She doesn't like any of you guys. Like, hey, come hang out. No, go screw yourself. Like, like, that was kind of her attitude about everything. It's just like, yeah, like, if you go dive off a cliff, like, no one's going to, Damien's going to be, like, before Damien and her connected, he would have been like, appreciate it, like, whatever.
Okay, so let's hit final thoughts. Anybody have final thoughts that they haven't got out about the show at this time? Anything else? Final thoughts? No? Good? Okay, I think that we kind of hit the high points there. I think we're saying basically it's a solid entry in the DC animated universe, but maybe the story has been done better at other times.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But as far as following this continuity, watchable. If you've liked some of the previous ones, where do you feel like it falls in the range? middle to high, or
I think to me the high watermark of this new one is the Aquaman story.
okay,
And I feel like everything else kind of falls. It's an amalgamation after that.
okay,
So I feel like you can throw this in anywhere after that. I would say Batman Bad Blood is second, and I know that you either really like it or you hate it, and then you can throw this in somewhere after that.
Yeah.
okay.
I probably put in the new stuff. I really enjoyed Justice League Dark. I thought it was a fun take, though it's a little more adult than most of the entries. And I'm with you on the Bad Blood. I just wish Dick Grayson could be Batman longer most of the time whenever that happens.
Just no more Gold Chain. Like, I hate Gold Chain Dick Grayson. Like, get that out of
Yeah,
here.
that's true.
Matt, what do you think? Where does it fall in the ones that you've watched?
It wasn't my favorite, but I probably need to watch other ones to really make a true ranking on it. But
Okay.
I was prepared to give it a letter grade. I would say B-.
Okay. Like I said, I've only watched a few recently, but I enjoyed it. I had a good time. I like Teen Titans stuff, and there's maybe not a ton of it, so that kind of leans into it. So, yeah, I'd probably say it felt like maybe a B for me.
Mm-hmm.
So, what do you think? So, somewhere in that neighborhood?
Yeah, I would rate it at a B as well.
Okay. All right, cool. Well, hey, that's pretty much our show. We'd love to hear what you think. You can tweet at us at Danger Infinite or find us on Facebook at Infinite Danger Room. You can send us an email at infinitedangerroom@gmail.com. You can also leave us a rating or a review on iTunes. You can also listen to the show via SoundCloud or at newsok.com. We'll be back next week with more comic, movie, other kind of pop culture news. For this week, for Rachel Price, Chris Borthick, Anthony Brown, and Matt Howlett, I am Matthew Price. Thank you for listening.